Welcome, and thank you for downloading this week Take Aim Outdoors, the Bowhunters podcast. Whitetail hunting stories, tips, and gears from across country. And now, here is your host.
Hey now, everybody. Welcome back. Brand new Take Aim podcast. Excited to get a new show out today. And as always, this episode is brought to you by my friends at Enforcer Ozone. As we speak, I'm actually getting ready to sit the rest of the day from probably 11 till dark. And I'm running my plug-in unit as we speak to clean out the whole. I got the door shut, vents covered, and all my clothes are laid out, and I'm just running this ozone unit as we speak, trying to kill all my human odor. But nonetheless, ready for an episode for some late season tips for hunting whitetails here in the Midwest, late in December. You know, the late season kind of reminds me a lot of the early season, so to speak. And part of that is having to have a plan of attack. What are you going to do? And one big thing I think is always going to be preferred, and we say it all the time, deer are slaves to their stomach. And with that said, you got to figure out where your food source is and how that changes throughout the year. And we know late season, they want those grains. They want those beans. They want that corn. But they also like some green too, just as well, because deer are just natural browsers. So if you can get in a transition area, between green or browsing area to the grain, it's highly, highly important. But as always, I think a lot has to do with your access. Find a great access where you can park, be out of the way, your simple access into some of these spots. Lots of times this time of year, deer don't travel far. They're going to be really close to those feeding areas. So get those simple access areas where you can slip into, a set of woods that you don't have to intrude too much into. Sometimes all the difference is 15 yards into a set of woods off a crop field. That's what my plan is today, actually. And again, if you are unsure of some of the late season food that they're going to want, again, it's going to be beans. Hot food would be standing beans, but a lot of us here in the Midwest, especially in Michigan, those beans are gone. But, beans are huge. Brassicas are huge this time of year, and obviously corn. If you can be anywhere where they're standing corn, or, maybe you have farmers that luckily for you anyways, have some old-time combine equipment, and a lot of those cornfields that are picked over, some of the older machines just leave a lot of corn. But if you can be by any of those, by all means, those are, this time of year, number one food source that is preferred by the deer. And again, some of the challenges with intruding into maybe a set of woods, one of the reasons I said 15 yards is, one of the issues is we have all the cover is gone this time of year. So you got to remember that the woods are going to look wide open. So you don't want to, to me, you don't want to intrude in a couple hundred yards and dive into those thick, nasty bedding areas. They're going to see you coming. They're also going to hear you. Everything is cold, especially right now. We're 27 degrees in Michigan. It's been down in the teens the last several days. Everything is loud and noisy right now, frozen to the bone. So don't intrude too much. Again, the woods are wide open. They're see-through, and they're going to see and hear you coming, obviously. Now, another really, I think, great tip this time of year is, and just like the early season, is run those trail cameras. But there's always an exception to every rule when it comes to deer hunting. You have to be extremely careful. And this time of year, you got to almost hope you have a camera that you have purposely placed over food and hopefully right near a bedding area, but one that you can access as well. You have to be super careful this time of year accessing these trail cameras if you're going to run them. And another cool tip is, or not cool tip, but just a tip in general, this time of year you're going to get some of these bucks post-rut that just have the need to feed again, replenish the body weight, and get their energy levels back up. And sometimes that triggers early feeding, especially in the evenings. It's going to trigger a spot where you may catch a buck coming out, 30 minutes before dark. And that deer, when that happens, he's pretty killable, but it is all about timing. It's almost a prediction because we know once you get a trail camera photo, it's already happened. But if you're getting a repeat offender, so to speak, where he's coming out 2 and 3 times, a week or in the last week, odds are you need to be there and stick it out on those best days. Today's one of these perfect days. That's what I'm going to be doing. It snowed for almost 2.5 days straight, on and off, obviously. But today and tomorrow is the first days we're not going to have snow in the past several days. So obviously, I really believe tonight, I believe during the midday today to this evening is going to be all kinds of action. I think the deer movement is going to be really, really solid. So yet again, that kind of coincides with what we look for in the early season. We look for those fronts. We look for a change of the wind after a lot of west or south. Here in Michigan, we get so many dominant southwest winds, which really sounds funny. But this part of the state, I don't know what it is. It's southwest. But once you have a different front come in, you had snow. We had a lot of north winds. Right after that front, boom, yet again, you want to be there. So that's what I'm planning on this evening and tomorrow is a change in the weather. And this opening today, the pressure's a little bit higher, no snow. I mean, again, just boils down to a lot of the same features for your early season. You're going to do exactly the same stuff for late season bow hunts this time of year. It's one of the things I hear about all the time is the notion of a second rut. And one of the guys in the gym this week came in and said the same thing to me. I'm not a big believer in a second rut. Maybe in some of the areas in the South, I hear so many different type of things where the rut happens for 3 months. But here in Michigan, generally, notion here in the Midwest is we don't have that kind of stuff. We have some does that don't get bred, and they come into heat later, and another cycle of it. So that's just a doe that didn't get bred. I just don't like the whole misconception, and guys get really excited about it, the notion of a second rut that I just think don't have the experience as a hunter or bow hunter yet. Again, don't get caught off guard when you hear that, but there's just always going to be does that have not been bred, and they're coming back into a cycle to get bred again. And you know what? It's going to be very limited in a very small area of your property that's having this kind of activity usually. So if you're lucky enough to be there, great. But if not, don't get all hyped up and go into your best rut spots and blow every deer out of your area because you hear somebody at work or the gym or, one of your buddies talking or somebody on Facebook. The second rut, at least here in the Midwest, like I said, is sort of a myth. So just pay attention to your deer herd like always and get after it like always. Another thing is our muzzleloader actually ends today here in Michigan. A lot of guys will do a lot of tracking now that we have this deep, fresh snow, and which is really fun hunting. But since I'm going to be bow hunting, we're going back to the basics. Won't be able to get out and run and gun, so to speak, and track deer through the snow. You guys that had the late season, the muzzleloader, those are great. All right, guys, I don't know what happened. So segment of what I was saying there, but I'm going to have to go back and edit this, I guess. But there's, great success for some guys late season doing that, tracking fresh tracks in the snow with a muzzleloader. Obviously, if you jump a deer, sometimes you get that opportunity to bank up against a tree and take a really clean shot. Sometimes those deer stop, don't know what's going on. But being that I'm bow hunting, I won't have that opportunity. One of the reasons that I like the late season is that pressure really dips. It really goes away after gun. You're not going to have so many guys out there. It's been actually a couple weeks, and I think it takes the deer, especially here in Michigan with the, estimated this year we're looking at 850,000 gun hunters. That puts a lot of pressure on the deer herd, and sometimes it takes some time to get back to regular deer pattern. and it's been about 2 weeks now since that has happened. Unfortunately for us, the very next day is our muzzleloader season, but the overall activity really does plummet. So luckily that of course I get a text right in the middle of the podcast and I lose my train of thought. But luckily for us, the later gets the pressure really dips and coincides better with deer movement. They get back to just a more natural movement and natural patterns again, which again kind of relates to what I was talking about. Your game plan should be what it is early season. If you follow some of those same fundamentals as early season, great access, follow those weather patterns, a lot of your late season success will come from those tips. So to recap a few things, we've talked about access again. Make sure you access the right way, just like you would early season. Don't over access. Food is king right now. So get on your spots that have the most amount of food. The vegetation is gone. Like I said, the woods is see-through. The crops are gone. So if you have food, standing food plots, get to your food. And again, watch those weather patterns. We want those patterns where a switch happens. After several days of snow, we want no snow. Several days of cloudy or rain, we want some sunlight. And like early season, play that barometer. Don't forget the fact that we want to be north of 30.00. That barometer rises, deer move, especially on a beautiful evening hunt. Get on food, rising barometer. If you guys pay any attention to Mark and Terry Jury, they live by that key all the time. They talk about that fact religiously. It plays a huge success on their farms that they manage. They key in on those days repeatedly, year after year. And I know that I talked about maybe misconception of the second rut, but if you're going to make the effort to get out, hunt those doe bedding areas if you know where they are. Hunt the bigger doe bedding areas where you have multiple does. That to me gives you optimum percentage of maybe there's a chance one of those does, if you're especially hunting a doe bedding area that has, like I said, multiple does, multiple families of does in there, that one of them was not bred. And within a few days, just like in early October, those bucks will know when she's ready, even if it's 3 or 4 days out. They're going to start hanging out, sniffing around, pushing around, and doing some of the same stuff. They're not going to pass the opportunity to breed a late season doe. So hunt those bedding areas. That's exactly what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to try to sneak into one that is a little finger of woods tonight between some green food and some grain food. And within 100 yards, there's a really nice bedding area. So that is exactly my game plan for tonight. And I have a really great feeling about tonight. Super excited about this evening's hunt. And another really great tip, guys, is make sure that you dress to kill, meaning don't, act like you're going to Gander Mountain or Cabela's afterwards in your cool camo. Bundle up. If you look like Santa Claus walking through the woods or a abominable snowman, who cares? If you're not comfortable, you're not going to kill anything. Again, today I'm going to hunt probably 6 hours. Right after I post this podcast, I'm going to be out till dark. So it will literally be 6 p.m. By the time I get out of the woods. But you have to be comfortable. You have to be warm. And otherwise, same stuff applies. If you're moving, especially with the woods being wide open, you're moving around, trying to get cold, standing up, sitting down, twirling around in your tree stand, that's not good. And so make sure you dress warm. Make sure, grab those hot hands, grab boot covers, get whatever you need to stay comfortable and enjoy the day. And by all means, I know a lot of my friends, a lot of my buddies, they're cuddled up on the couch watching the NFL, hanging out, don't pass up the late season to shoot a really nice buck. Last year, December 7th, a little bit earlier than this year, I shot a great 5.5-year-old Michigan deer. One of the biggest, over 250 pounds, one of the biggest Michigan bucks I've ever killed. One of the better racks, but biggest body, oldest deer Michigan I've ever killed. And like I said, that was late season. I snuck in not too far. I was probably 40 yards in the woods, and just got in between a perfect bedding area and feed. Exactly what I'm planning on doing tonight. So don't pass up a late season, even if it's one day, to get out there and hunt, because you could shoot one of your best bucks ever. But all right, guys, with that said, I'm going to get dressed, get out there. I just charged my Enforcer portable ozone up and charged a video camera up. So I'm going to head to a friend of mine's, a client's tonight. I hate to call him a client, but a friend of mine's place. He invited me over to shoot some does, but you never know what's going to walk out in front of me. But I'm super excited to get over to his place, hunt somewhere new, and make it happen tonight. But super excited. Hopefully next week I'm going to have somebody within the next day or two, hopefully, or early next week, get a podcast out with one or two guys from G5 Prime. Prime just launched a new bow, and super excited to talk with those guys about that and give you some of the info about that new bow that's coming out from Prime. And make sure, like always, guys, wear a harness, stay safe, and we'll see you guys next week.